Hello and welcome to EASD TV. Now, we've designed a special form of torture for the programme committee because every day of the Congress we invite them here to the EASD studio to tell us the best bits. Did the things they programme really work out? Which were the best things that they went to? And that's really to help you decide where you want to look on the EASD web and virtual meeting. So let me introduce you to the programme committee that we have here. Sofia Carlsson from Stockholm and Paula Macedo from Lisbon. Welcome. So let's start with you, Sofia, from Stockholm. First of all, did you enjoy the day?
Yes, I did. But since I had this task to meet you tonight, I was also a very good student, trying really to pay very close attention to everything.
And what did you pick out for us?
There were several good things, but I can start with women's health, because I tried to focus a little bit on that. And there were two excellent presentations on from actually the same French data. And it was in an oral session called The Dark Side of Diabetes. And what they had discovered following these 84,000 or something women was, first of all, they looked at endometriosis, which is apparently associated with cardiometabolic disease, including myocardial infarction, to see, like for the first time, if it's associated with type 2 diabetes, which it is not, which was really good news. But then from the same study, they also looked at hysterectomy and the risk of type 2 diabetes. And here they could see an increased risk, especially in younger women who had undergone hysterectomy. So I thought that was really sort of novel and interesting.
But is that with or without hormone replacement therapy afterwards? Because that's a key thing.
Yeah, and they adjusted for that, but I guess that's what you would think, that, okay, is this a mediator? And I think just the whole thing with the mechanism is, of course, not clear. But what the authors discussed, or the presenter, was that perhaps it relates to depression, because hysterectomy is associated with depression is associated with type 2 diabetes. But sort of the mechanism was unknown, and something to study further.
Fascinating. Paula, one from you.
I would start by the end of this day. I just went to these seminars within the Grep Cycle Symposium, and Christopher Kosinski was describing the Atkins Diet and how it could be very interesting for people with type 2 diabetes. The problem.
Now just remind us, the Atkins diet is the
ketogenic diet.
Ketogenic, the one with where you eat nothing but protein.
Exactly.
Yes, that's the one. Right.
That's exactly the one. So, of course, there is a huge problem, the compliance. So people not go forever in this diet, and so will be in and on, going in and off. Which is not a good thing. So maybe, and that actually was my question to him, if it is possible to do something intermittent, and even more to bind this with a different type of diet as the intermittent fasting. And actually the day before, yesterday, Paula presented very interesting data on intermittent fasting and the effects on the brain, so decreasing the relation with anxiety and so on. So the beneficial effects on different diets on people, and the idea that you should actually personalize the diets, because not everybody responds to diets in the same way.
Most people I know on the Atkins diet are extremely grumpy and unhappy. Something else from you?
There was another oral session called something with Sweet Souls, and it was about psychological, mental health in relation to diabetes. And the first talk in that session was really interesting because it was a study from the UK, and it was about psychological resilience and prognosis in type 1 diabetes in adults. And psychological resilience is how, if bad things happen to you, how do you deal with it? Are you good at adapting, or so? And interestingly, with this follow-up study, so people with poor resilience, they had much worse HbA1c trajectories. So this led into the whole discussion of should we manage people differently? Should we have some kind of it was apparently easy to assess psychological resilience. So should we assess people, and if they have poorer resilience, have more sort of targeted interventions, and so that I felt was very interesting. Yeah.
Another one from you. Well, I will follow with the beginning of the day, where I went to this symposium of juggling with lipids. And what I came out of it, people look very much about NAFLD and ceramides. And there is this discussion about the good and the bad and the ugly ceramides. And of course, all this depends on the specific species, because we do need ceramides, and the idea that you start to export them into the bloodstream when you have this excess of lipids. So some of them really correlate well with the cardiovascular risk. The question is just an association, or are they actually the cause of some of it? And that it goes on still with the discussion, and how they are tied with insulin resistance. Being insulin resistance, of course, really important on all this story.
So I have to ask you both, is there anything particular you've just reviewed today, the Thursday, but is there anything else that you've seen which was completely outstanding for you? I know, Sofia, I suspect you thought Annette Ziegler was great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And first of all, she got the Novo Nordisk Prize yesterday. So she did sort of an overview of all her extensive work in type 1 diabetes, which was, if you want to get the full story, sort of, you should listen to that. And then there was a symposium that she participated in afterwards on prevention and environmental risk factors for type 1. So I think this was the highlight for me.
Standout for you, what else for you? So was there something that you've seen elsewhere in the week that you thought was absolutely fantastic?
Well, I think that the thing that excites me at the moment is how are we capable of understanding the different phenotypes of people. So looking at the clustering, which type of clustering, because depending on what you put or add as the basics to do the clustering analysis will be really relevant, and this integrative model where you can put the different in place the milieu, the mechanisms, and the etiology all together as an integrative model is really relevant. An extra add was a new mechanism that is related to the internalization of insulin receptor, and is when it's abrogated impacts on the insulin signaling, and this is attached to the CDRs, the dorsal ruffle, and this is completely new.
Fantastic. So, in summary, did you think that you've done a good job on programming?
Yes, of course.
Yes, what score? And I asked, very mean. I've been very mean. I've asked everybody on the programme committee what score they'd give themselves for the programme out of 10.
I have to say that I was walking and someone came to me and told me, this is the best EASD meeting I ever been. And I asked, I was
well, there
puzzled.
You are. It's a 10. It's a 10 from you. And how about you, Sofia?
Well, maybe But I have to say 10. Otherwise, I'm being mean to actually the presenters. But then I hope I can do even an 11 for next year. Like even be more innovative.
So perhaps 9 3/4.
Yeah, and
it'll
10
be
for
10 next year. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much for programming, because you have made it the best EASD that anyone has been to. There you are. What praise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's a goodbye from me. See you tomorrow.